Okay. Excuse me. I already put the cards away, but it's fine. So now I'm gonna see if I will be blessed with granted any knowledge, information on what's happening over here. And that energy that feels like it's above, and that stream of energy. The one that it feels like it's got high priestess all over it. Oh. Wow. Wackend. Watcher Animal Guide was at the bottom of the deck. I put Civil there, but this one was the one that was there. So I gotta find a Ken. Is it still Ken? What's it called now? I think it is Ken. My Ken is tiny though. I never see Geotan. A Geotan. Some of these are like no. Ool. I never see Ool. Gar. I saw Kanefo recently. Kusma, I don't see too much. At Borstan. Where is this? Gathering. 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 Is it at the top of the deck? Here it is. Ken is between Igashalmer and Leaf Shade. Yep. So I'm actually going to do it this way. Excuse me. I need to just go to bed. Here it is. The Fruma is at the bottom of the deck now. With the little hair tie on it. The Fruma Elfin Light. See, this divine spark is protected, and it's another 6. 66, 6, 65. 66656. 48 is a 12. 60, is that 60 literally a number 6? Another 6. 66, 65, 66, and 48. Between Leaf Shade and Igashomer, though, I'm getting more of the shadow in Leaf Shade, and Igashomer is something that's protected. So I don't think I would have gotten anything on the other side. Now, I don't know if these will miss. Well, they may. We'll see. If not, I'll go somewhere else. Ooh, yeah, I see the Nine of Swords is behind it. Ooh. But that's not relevant to this. I want one more card here. The King of Coins might not use this deck. Please don't give me a core card in this deck. The Knight of Swords, though? See, this look a little helixy. Okay, helixy. It looks helixy. Helicases. The thing that unwinds and winds DNA, I think. Like, this look like DNA. with the ribbons and the winged horse. See, that energy came out with Speak Truth and the Fool recently. Speak Truth, it was the Fool, the Conqueror of Swords, I think, which is the Knight of Swords energy, or maybe not. But it was this energy where like the Fool spoke a truth that was someone else's and it grew wings. But it's about the Fool learning to speak another's truth while maintaining a sense of self. But can I get just like one card on this, please? Oh, well, there we go. Okay, well, there's two. Four of Wands. Venus and Aries. That's where my Venus is. Oh my gosh, this is literally me. My Venus in Aries opposes my Jupiter in Libra. Why? I was like, wow, the two benefics in my chart, and they're opposed against each other. Venus is in a space it doesn't like to be in. My Jupiter is retrograde, and my Jupiter is in my sixth house. Venus is in my 12th house. Aries and Libra are inconjuncted in my chart. So, like, neither Aries nor Libra rules a house. They just fall in the house. I'm like, okay, well. But, you live life and then good things start to happen. So, eventually, when you're of the mind to, I guess. Five of Cups. Bottom of the deck is the Five of Wands. I mean, we got Four of Swords, Four of Wands. Might as well do Five of Cups, Five of Wands, I guess. Under that is the Ace of Wands, which is the element of fire. See, like with the triangle and the Ten of Wands card, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've watched the other one. But if not, I'll link it in the description box. And now that I said it, I gotta do it. No. Why did I say that? It's fine. So the thing was, I'll take this. And then death transformation is there. Every sign is on this snake except for Pisces. Pisces is the only sign on this snake that I can't find. Maybe you can. Aries, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Virgo, Taurus. Where do Pisces at? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Maybe that's because Pisces are already dead. Or they're the closest to the grave, right? If you take the zodiological, if you take the wheel in birth order, Aries is like newborn, and Pisces is the closest to death, closest to the other side of the veil, stuff like that. So I want to put these to the side. I guess I'll just set these here. Full moon. Excuse me. There's a full moon in that death card too. And the full moon is in Pisces right now. Oh my gosh. What? Well, the moon is like in Aries now, but still. And the sun is now in Libra, but it's far enough away that it's not like a full moon Aries. Um, Actually, it might be a little full moon Aries energy. We may be getting some carryover energetically from when the full moons came first in the season instead of the new moon. Maybe it comes with some form of opportunity. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? It's how we interact with it always, anyway. Did I shuffle these? Jack of clubs. The internal invited to the external. Inner secret revealed, cognition illuminated. Yesterday on the Legacy channel, the ruler of cups came out with the seeker of wands under the light of the ruler of swords. Here it says the internal is invited to the external. I would typically assume, I feel like it would be easy to assume that the swords are the external and the cups are the internal. But if we think about it, when it comes to water, a lot of times it's a lot more engaging with others. Sometimes it's dependent upon others and external factors more so than the mind is in a way, right? When we're in our head, like we're in our head, but when we're in our fields, we're kind of sort of like at least trying to latch on to someone else. So the cups may be a little bit more external in this way. One moment, please. Don't tell a soul. I'm just okay. So, and it did feel like the Seeker of Wands was carrying an invitation, but I said it was like a costume party or something like that. So the King of Wands had to go as the King of Cups. The Ruler of Wands had to go as the Ruler of Cups. And then here's the Jack of Clubs, Page of Wands energy, with the internal invited to the external. And maybe that's where this has the opportunity to fall apart in a way or to be a little bit difficult to navigate. Ooh. Sorry. I'm hungry. It's time for me to go to bed, though. So, if the internal is one of the Five of Cups or the Five of Wands, what it's going to do is it's going to be barred from this space. Right? This is the outside. On the inside, it's literally the Four of Swords. Here, oh my gosh, the Five of Cups a lot of times can be an energy almost like the Five of Pentacles. It can be an energy of like feeling emotionally sort of like left out, right? Or holding emotional regret over things that didn't quite necessarily work out that we thought were like it. But on the other side of that is that what is typically marital sort of energy or an energy of celebration amongst many. And then here is conflict. On the other side of conflict is peace. This reminds me almost of the Watchers reading I did on the Legacy channel when I went looking for all of the owls to see what the Watchers were up to and the wild unknown animal spirits and tarot. And I think there were, so it's the four suits of swords, the owl, and the Wheel of Fortune. So it ended up being like six. Only one of them came out in front of the veil. The other five watchers were behind the veil. And it was this continual series of like almost checkpoints. And that video actually came to mind the other day. I think because Reem was doing something and an owl popped out, maybe. See, but that there is an energy here of almost like being the aperture. Oh, well, it's not a square. The triangle and the circle, but it feels directional, like it's going here. Somebody said something about light recently, maybe. I mean, okay. Mm, I can feel the cool breeze coming in. All right, let me stop. There's an energy here of shedding skin. The one thing about this death card that I find particularly perturbing, I guess, is oh, that's funny. Is how like decrepit it looks. But just like the snake, it feels like it can shed its skin and be born again anew. And then we have the watcher energy here. It's almost like there's a cycle where it comes to be reintegrated into wherever the spirit does. Like how after we live our physical lives, we go through processing. It feels like the same is true on the spiritual side. But there's a little bit of an energy of shadowing, like a job shadowing. Like when you go and you watch someone else do their job so you can get an idea of what they do. Or you can also shadow when you're training. Or you can also shadow when you're being audited. Right? Well, you're being shadowed if you're being audited more often than not to make sure that you're going through the process the right way. Don't worry about it. Okay. So I don't know which of those applies. Oh my gosh. I noticed that earlier, but I didn't say anything. That's another erupting volcano. Volcanoes are apparently a thing today. There was a super volcano. Well, it was a super volcano podcast, but they said that there was like a mountain or something, and then it erupted and it blew the top off. Now I'm assuming they knew it was a volcano, and that it just wasn't like dormant for so long that people thought it was a mountain, but it actually ended up being a volcano. But in that, there's an energy of connection that used to be blocked for some reason. And that energy also came out recently ish. But it's interesting because it feels like as we transition out of the Five of Wands, Five of Cups energy into the Four of Swords, Four of Pentacles energy, there's something. It's it feels like there's an energy of changing hands in a way almost. Which I guess goes back to that old watcher, new watcher, watcher in the space of being reborn, the processed watcher spirit, whatever. I want one more of these. I guess I got two. A blistering heat, 10 of diamonds. A blistering heat and freezing cold that lies at the heart of creation. The truth of the heart made plain, and beginnings. Cognition illuminated, the truth of the heart made plain. I don't know where this sits. Um, and then where passion meets determination, going the distance and a need for discipline, the five of hearts. Hopefully I get a spade here. And I did the jack of spades. Now we have clubs, hearts, diamonds, and spades. The beginnings of self-realization, caring for one's mental space, preparation to welcome or preparing to welcome something big. So jacks are coming out in the wands and the or wands and swords, spades and clubs. But so what would this be? This would be the 10 of realms, the 5 of essences, and then the jacks of zones and souls. Excuse me. Scholars. The scholars of zones and souls. See that scholar of zones. This is why I have this space. Okay. There's an energy of becoming here. Something. And there's an energy, it's almost like inheriting a set of keys or something. And that's why this is a space that's so guarded, because it's that what the internal invited to the external. It's like there's so much more chaos. I feel like it just got brighter. Maybe not. It feels like there's so much more chaos and other things that can ensue when we're sort of welcomed as is. And I don't remember if in the Watchers there came a point where it's like where we become the Watchers. It's almost the I Witch frequency with Goddess Aya. Girl, why are you not closing? Hello? Almost. Well, it is in some ways. And that's why we have the scholar of zones and souls. The scholar of zones, it's a space, it's all that precedes the physical. Earth, pinnacles, diamonds, realms, the world that we sort of like physically like live in and interact with. It's tangible. Zones are the almost unspoken, unseen things that go to inform the physical. So it's almost like the permit or the deed for the land, the architectural blueprint for the building, things like that. That then you go and you actually build the property on the property, right? And then with souls and essences, a soul is basically us in our entirety. The essence, it's the pieces of us that we sort of bring to the table to be who we are in the moment. Whereas I guess the soul would be like the entire Akashic library of the individual, rather than the selected books that inform your story in this incarnation or whatever. And so this scholarly learning is happening deep inside of oneself and behind the scenes of everything that plays out physically. So that understanding the unseen and grasping the subtle that came out when I first like pulled these out. Now I might have to go back and watch the beginning of that video because there was a whole bunch of blue cards, and then the void and Ganunga Gap. And I know Wataga Fall was there, Gifu was there, or Jifu. There was another all blue one. Was it Ing? I don't think it was Ing. It was Ing, actually. And Swelgeness. It was Swelgeness, Weird, Ing, I think. Jifu, Watergafal, Gunungagap. And then that understanding the subtle and the unseen. Like there are all of these sort of back currents. And this energy did come in with Kakabiel and um, the other one, Semyaza, Kakabiel and Semyaza. And there was this energy of like Kakabiel was looking up to the giants that sort of march past, where we look on and they keep on going. And then Semyaza was what, like the father of giants or something like that. And again, it's almost this energy where it's like observing more directly, maybe even participating to some degree, whatever that degree is, in what's happening like upstairs, sort of above everything else. Okay, I get it. Ha, lol. And the scholar is the learning. It's a space of learning. After the scholar is no, these are the initiates. Sorry, the initiates are the jacks, and it's about learning. The knights, it's both because in the cards are in the standard playing deck, they only have one jack. So it's an energy of both the scholar and the initiate. The kings are sages, the queens are teachers. So the initiate is the one who's learning. The scholar is the one who's like doing an internship where you're putting it into practice, but you're still learning as you go. It's like where you are applying the theories to see how they work in real life. But this, how it works in real life, is a lot more subtle, which may also be why the King of Cups is invited into that King of Water energy. King of Cups, ruler of swords, ruler of cups. That's that meeting between the logical and the intuitive. Now, with the Five of Essences and the Ten of Realms, it feels like there is a certain energy of abundance that comes in that then triggers more things to come online within self. The Five of Essences could almost be in a space. I mean, one of the things where it could be, it's like if there are two different things that you like to do, or if the world is calling on two different parts of you, but you feel that you have to sacrifice one instead of the other. And so there's a whole suite and skill set and personality and traits and things, whatever. Maybe not that extreme. But there are certain things in you that come on the forefront as other things sort of die down, right? But with these things, this is also, it feels like, because I talked about the veil coming down. Well, it would make sense. It's the veil sort of opening in a way. Like it feels like the gate of Sahakiel. And the gate of Sahakiel was the one of the last cards I looked at in the Angelarium year or two. But it's also, it feels like it requires us to be able to be at comfort in the void in a way. Maybe sort of drifting, maybe not. This to me is also a world energy because in a lot of world cards, she's wrapped around with the purple cloth, right? But this one is like out of this world, literally. But I feel like that just reinforces the exploration of the zone, that which isn't yet necessarily physical. There's no earth here besides the Ten of Diamonds. and it's fire heavy. But that's the soul. I just I pre-ordered SKT3, and I got the book of maps, and I finally looked at it. I don't want to look at it too much because I want to be surprised when the cards come. Um, but there was something in the back about money and Manichaeism or something like that. And he said that like he was born and he had like a spiritual twin who was like an angel or something like that. And it does almost feel like meeting a greater spiritual part of oneself. And it isn't necessarily like higher self integration, but it is. But it feels, I don't know what this is. It's I which. It's almost like a new set of watchers question mark. I need to stop. I haven't been on this channel long enough. I don't do all this on here. On this channel, I just say it. I'm supposed to. But I feel like it's going back to that energy. Oh. So the Queen of Cups in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot is the one who guards the well. So the ruler of cups would be the hermit who's gone beyond, who's been granted access, who's drank from the well, and who emerges back outside to do whatever, right? To reintegrate with the world and then do whatever they do and however they do it. Why would the ruler of swords, king of swords, where does that fit in? The king of swords is the archangel commander. The archangel commander in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot carries a story of how we are given we basically we get put on the spot to handle something or to deal with something, and in doing that, this was the story. It was like you pray to Archangel Michael to get something taken care of, and Michael's like, I don't have my sword. Sorry, you're gonna have to deal with it. Or Michael's like, well, here's my sword. You go and deal with it. And so you go and deal with it eventually, and you go to give Michael his sword back, and he's like, "That's not my sword. That's yours." And you're like, "Wait, but you told me you didn't have a sword. That's why I had to go and deal with it." And he's like, "Well, like my sword is my sword. Did you really think?" And then maybe you're like, "Nah." But anyway, after that, there's an energy where like Mike, then you like train with Michael on how to use a sword, or you spar with him to like evaluate you, and then you get set on a different path of learning or integration or whatever, right? After you sort of learn to handle and deal with this, right? And that's this sword that this person is resting on. Above the Three of Swords energy. Makes sense. Then you're welcomed in and invited in. So that's the King of Swords. The King of Swords was the one archangel commander who comes into their own power, and who was in the space again with the jokers here, jacks with the jacks here, carrying both the scholar and the initiate energy. It's that learning and using in real life, and learning and using in real life, and honing by experience is more than anything else. um, and that's how we get better and more proficient. And as we do that, we come into these greater and greater knowings of ourselves. Or we know how to integrate different parts of ourselves and different strengths in different areas to really maximize the effectiveness of whatever we're doing in a way, right? So that would also be why the five of essences is here, because the sage of essences is coming back. It would also be why the sage of zones, king of swords energy is here, because it feels like it almost requires a certain recalibration of the self in order to accommodate not necessarily new information, but these maybe recently awakened or reawakened parts of self. So tens are numbers of completion, right? And this is the most interesting part, is that we end with the 10 of realms. It's interesting because we're not in the court of realms. It's not like an initiate or a scholar or a teacher or even a sage. And I think that's also the point here. You hear the sirens? It's almost like it's just to be lived, not necessarily to. And I don't know if this is a space that people can necessarily be led to outside of like your typical run of the mill handle, deal with, show up, face everything that you got to do. And then eventually you almost find yourself in a space of not necessarily influence, but kinda, because you're no longer susceptible to these kind of changes. There's more internal stability, regardless of what happens and transpires on the outside, which is needed because there are certain spaces that it's like a certain volatility just can't be afforded in. So that's what this is. I knew as soon as that blip of light at the heart of a black hole came out, I was like, yeah, no, that's beyond the scope of this. And I don't fully know what the difference is, but honestly, personally, there are some things that um, I need to start using this channel more, or I need to start doing more. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm supposed to be doing that I never did. I was like, oh well, after I get my degree, then I'll do all that spiritual stuff. And I got my degree, and now I'm working. And it's not that the spiritual stuff has fallen by the wayside, but lately it's become clear to me again that because so it's this energy where again it's that like Kukabio looking up at the stars versus like the Samyaza being in that stream of light almost, where there it's like things look a certain way from this vantage point, but once you're actually there, it's a lot more dynamic. It's almost like from beneath it, it looks a little flat. There are some things that are already in spaces far beyond where we kind of sort of perceive them to be. And so, in some way, it feels like to reach into that space to find that energy is to get a fragment or a remnant of something that's no longer there. But that's the thing, right? It continues to sort of like play out the story or whatever, but it feels like it's already shifted. And maybe that's another reason why this Jack energy is here. I feel like with this energy, this would appear as like the Emperor, or like this would appear as a lot more um, of a master on the other side because of the space that it's reached in a way. But it's still learning as we all learn. Five, six, seven, eight. Didn't even realize that. I just noticed that. Five. Wait, are we counting down? Yeah, we're counting down. Everything was counting down. So eight, seven, six, five. See, this feels better because now this is the change in the essence of the person, where they go from this like constantly sort of at odds with themselves and the world around them, to the six of the internal, this cognition illuminated. So the six for me in this is an energy where it's like where we get an understanding. But the seven is the space where we realize that there's actually a lot more to it than we thought. And this is I feel like this is the reason why it's like from a certain space, it would seem that like, oh my gosh, this person is like amazing and they're this and they're that, but they're still there's still more learning. But it just happens in a different way. This is like the first part, like a stability and unshakableness. It's what it's energies where it's like with the dark night of the soul, it's like it's birthed in the dark, but it evolves and expands in the light. The wake up is just like the first part in a way. And then the eight is the eight is an energy because the nine is like completion, and then the 10 is like the finishing touches. The 10 is like where you've mastered it, whereas the nine is like you know it. With the eight, you're building out that knowing. And that's why this eight is still not in the court of realms. And it's an interesting space to be in because I guess it's a, so from my own personal experience, as far as I can tell with an energy like this, like there are some things that happen in life that we accept as not great things that just happen. There are some things in life where I've personally, so let me speak from personal experience. There are some things in my life that I've had to accept as just like occurrences and things that happen. There are some things where I've been like, no, this is not going to be my experience. This is something that is completely, this is something that's in a lot of ways unnecessary. I can realize and recognize the times for what they are and triggering to happen everything that we're going to be coming into. But that being said, there are certain extremes that don't need to be experienced because, like, we're already a lot of us at breaking points anyway, and we don't want to be shattered beyond repair. And so there is a certain allowance, I think, that from my position, I feel like there's a certain allowance that we have to have that we wouldn't necessarily think to have without being there. Because it's like, who wants bad stuff to happen? And then again, it's that question of like, well, where would you decide to step in, and where would you decide? Just like, we leave everyone to their own paths and journeys, and we all learn what we learned in the time and space that is for us to learn it. And there are so many things that it's like I can recognize that within myself. But it is a question, I guess, again. Here is Saturn in Leo. Earlier, it was Saturn in Sagittarius. It's where do we draw those lines? Where do we draw those boundaries? Where do we attempt to step in a way, I guess? And maybe that's why the King of Swords and the King of Cups need to be in communication with each other. Because it feels like in that dynamic, King of Swords energy would be more like, well, this is what they need to grow. And King of Cups is like, well, we also want them to be here. So, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be too harsh now. And it does call something forward from within us. It calls forward those aspects of the Creator, I guess, that allow us to more directly, not even necessarily directly, because again, it's the zones. Everything is subtle. Nothing is, from my experience, and it can only come to me in a way that I can process. And again, like, the Ten of Realms came out. It wasn't the Jack or the King or the Queen. Um, I just completely lost that train of thought. With the realms, it's all subtle. It isn't necessarily something that you physically, tangibly move. And for me, from what I can tell from the very little that I may have scratched the surface, a lot of it is about conviction. Yeah. And that's that. I guess maybe it's a piece of that Archangel Commander energy, King of Swords energy. It's conviction. Conviction and um, it's not integrity, but it's like it's holding strong to something regardless of what happens and what plays out. To be unwavering. It's an unwavering energy. And in that, it's not to be extremely fixed either. Because again, that's where the King of Cups comes back in with the fluidity. It's to allow to be what needs to be. And so it's a whole bunch of like, not necessarily mental gymnastics, but recognizing, again, that certain things need to be for the reasons that they need to be. It's interesting. That's what I got from this. So, and again, the King of Wands energy doesn't really show up. And I saw the King of Coins at the cut, I think. That's why I said, don't give me a court card. And then the Knight of Swords came out. I was like, oh, well, this is a court card that, I could get behind. Or was that the Legacy one? I don't even remember now. I think that was this one. I'm pretty sure that was this one. I was like a Gila case. Yeah, I'm like 95, 54, 22. 7, I'm 7% sure it happened here. And that's just how it's playing out for me and how it's been unfolding for me. I don't think it's not one of those things that works the same for everybody. It's how I work and how I'm structured. It fits my personal internal alchemy, my balance of fire and air and water and earth and ether and all of the other elements. It's also how I've had to learn balance, maybe. And it can play out in any way for anybody. And this is one of those things where it's like, that's another reason why I wouldn't necessarily go this far or start to like breach stuff like this in the space of a general reading, because I do believe that there are different ways that like we access stuff and work with stuff, and it isn't necessarily beneficial when you're in the space of discovering what your thing is. I don't personally believe it's necessarily beneficial to hear how other people do it. So even like what I've shared, like find your own way because it works with you. All right. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting on my take all that you wish to experience your reality. It is now firmly my bedtime. And yeah, I really want to start using this space more. I want to start doing all this stuff that I was supposed to be doing. Not supposed to be doing. Because I was like, if you want me to do this, I need the degree just to finish. I've also been realizing the magic of timing lately, maybe. Yeah, I've definitely been realizing the magic of timing lately. So- But it's funny, I guess, because that's what I've been saying or receiving and saying for a little bit now. That as we move, there are other things that move in ways that we don't even know. And we just happen to find each other at those almost Yorian juncture points. And it's for us to hopefully be ready when we meet whatever. Which is another reason why this internal conflict and turmoil and how it causes us to react with others in our environment and our environment needs to be resolved, because there are certain things that if met with this, they're gonna leave. They're gonna be like, you know what, I'm good. All right, yeah, that's this. Bye.